How are y'all doing? All right, we got like 12 people. Cool. I'm sure as some of you have noticed, like when you went to look at this week's module, it wasn't up earlier today, but it's up now. It's not complete. I've still got to finish creating the discussion board question, and then I've also got to do a uploaded video, but that'll basically be focusing more on how to navigate the library database because that's what we're going to be talking about more today. We're going to go over making sure you guys know what a literature review is, like have research questions in mind going forward, because if you don't have a research question, like learning how to do all the database stuff and searching for things isn't going to be as easy today if you don't already have an idea of a question, because that question will help generate like search terms that you guys would be using to search the library database, because that's what we're going to do today. Is it's going to be an informal library day. The librarians know way more than I do, but I've seen this 1 hour spiel that they give like enough times to know what to hit myself. um yeah, so wow, only like half the classes showed up today. That's no bueno. Um, we may have to change our attendance policy here if we're getting 11 people not coming. Um, First thing first, who wants to just go ahead and give us a righteously quick down and dirty like summary of what a literature review is in there? Mine, just so I know that like at least one of you guys gets it, and I'm sure if one of you does, more of you will. So who, anybody, just go ahead, say me, and then start telling us what a literature review is, please. Um, Jordan unmuted themselves for like a half second.
Okay, I didn't know if someone was gonna go.
Thank you.
To me, when I think of a literary review, I think of you get all these resources and basically find what you're trying to describe and basically summarize it throughout your paper and finding like facts to support that, but you're not arguing and you're not like stating your opinion, you're just explaining what the text has given you.
Yeah, that's a really good way. And then you got on it. You're not giving an argument or an opinion. You're just kind of foregrounding all of the research that you have done for the reader, so that they can come in with a idea of what you're going to be talking about. So say you want to talk about whether or not like green technology is actually carbon neutral. Say you want to discuss the findings of whether or not the footprint or the carbon footprint of producing like green energy is like setting the actual use of the tools to create green energy. You would want to contextualize and kind of give me what the field is saying about that. You wouldn't want to come in and be like yes or no. You wouldn't want to just come in and be like yes, it's offsetting, but you would want to kind of give the person an idea of what you're looking at, what you're researching, so that they have a context coming in. And also, I've thrown up like a 12-minute video from YouTube that's really helpful in explaining lit reviews as well. But again, like all you're really doing is summarizing all of the research you've done in one paper and kind of telling us the common trends that are within the field, things that they agree on, things they don't agree on. And you will also want to be like previewing where you fit into that research as well. Like you would want to be talking about, like if you're talking about an area where you will be adding more information or where there's a gap in the research that you will intend to kind of try to fill, you would preview that in your literature review. But you would want to talk about any gaps in research, anything that's everybody agrees on, things that they don't agree on, like where shortcomings are, that sort of stuff. You would just want to kind of give everybody a really quick rundown of what you've been doing research on. Any questions on literature review and what it is, or any more explanations from anybody else? Is there anything that's not making sense about a literature review? They're really, really boring, and they only come up in your like 201 and 101 classes. And then again, if you go into grad school, because I went through all of my undergrad, like my capstones and stuff, and like they had works cited in papers, but nobody was really interested in a literature review till I got here into my master's. So keep that in mind. I know that they're kind of boring and like daunting, but you won't be doing that many of them. And that's kind of the thing that sucks about them, is why they're hard and foreign, is because we don't do many of them. But that is what a literature review is. Any questions on that? Okay. So this week I primarily now want to be focusing on research, because that's what you'll be doing over this week, is gathering more of your research and beginning to write that literature review. So let's see here in the chat. For the use in the literature review, I think I have, let me see here. Part 2, the literature review. Let's see here. Where is it? Okay, apparently it's not on here, but it's 8 to 10. Oh, it's 8 total sources, 6 of which must be scholarly. So 6 will have to be peer-reviewed journals, books written on the subject that you've done that have gone through a proper venting process. So like when I say that, if you find a book that somebody has self-produced and it's sold like 6 copies and it's being sold on Amazon, that's probably not going to be a scholarly source. I mean, you'd be putting a lot of faith in the person for doing it correctly, but a book from like Penguin or Routledge or a big company that's sold tens of thousands of copies and is like a book produced by a real manufacturer, that's going to be something that you can use and look into. Like a great example would be a book that I have. It is called Policing the Media, and it's literally an ethnographic study of police officers and their perceptions of the job. So anyway, so that would be a book that is scholarly and gone through that process. But if I find a book that is not written by, if I find a book written by an amateur environmentalist who has no environmental background and the book is all self-published, you would want to definitely look into those sources and maybe move beyond them and go steal their original sources. But anyways, 6 scholarly sources, 8 total sources. The 2 that you use should be highly reputable. So like ABC News, NBC News, and MSNBC, The Atlantic, The Hill, those sort of newspapers and websites are considered highly respectable. Or yeah, so that would be a thing. Make sure that the non-scholarly sources are respected. And then yeah, like I said, you could possibly use the weird guy as one of your 2, but that might be problematic in that you have to then do all the extra research of fact finding and verifying his information, or fact checking, sorry, and verifying his information where that has kind of been done for you in a book that has been peer reviewed or gone through like actual publishing company and has been like read over by multiple readers, that sort of a thing. Okay, so that was that question. Any other questions on amount of sources, anything like that? Okay, cool. So, if you guys want to, you can go ahead and, yeah, we're just gonna go over the database research thing that I have. So it's on module 6. If you wanna go down and download it, it should be under module 6. Should be like the second or third thing down. Yeah, here. Okay. Yeah. Week 6, it is database search tips is actually like the second thing. It's after the to-do list. If you want to go ahead and download that and open that up, we will talk about that. Basically, I'm going to be going over the different ways to search in Google versus using our library database. And then I'll use some of you guys as examples, and we'll go onto the library database and we'll look at some stuff. I'll do some screen sharing. Yeah.
I don't see module 6.
Oh, okay. Let me double check. Did I not? Oh, that would be because it was unpublished. Now try. Refresh your browser. Yeah, That's my bad. Is it there now?
Yes.
Sweet. Second one down, database search tips. So yeah, we'll run through this real quick, and then I'll probably break you guys into breakout groups, just so we can come up with some like search terms for you guys to use, and you can brainstorm with each other based on your research questions. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys like another 30 seconds to download that, and then we'll go. Oh, chat 2. I don't see module 6. I think we've resolved that now. To rough drafts and final draft. The final draft show that they're due the same day in the calendar. Sorry. This is the joys of in the calendar I have rough draft due part 1 rough draft, or academic essay part 2 rough draft is due the 1st, and then the final draft is due the 8th on the calendar that I've updated. I might not have replaced the correct one, but yeah, no, the Canvas calendar is wrong. Maybe it's because I haven't changed the dates for the due dates and the assignments that I set up in Canvas. That's probably it. So when I set up Canvas, I went with the original like OG 10 weeks with the 11th week open sort of a thing, and then I realized that we have like an extra 2 weeks. So anyways, 1st is when the rough draft is due, 8th is when the final draft is due, just for future clarification. All right, let's go ahead and start with database search tips. So first and foremost, the way that you search within an article database or like a library database is different than how you would search on Google. If you want to search for your topic as a sentence in a database, like you might on Google. So if you were to go to our library database and be like, how does this, or the example I have is, what are the pros and cons of genetic cloning? That database of ours, because you've done it as a question, is going to be looking for all of those words within your question, within article abstracts. So what you would wind up getting is tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of results with what are the pros and cons of genetic cloning, and any one of those phrases highlighted, because what I'm doing is I'm just throwing out a general search term, and that's the way library databases work, is they look at those as terms. They don't use Google's algorithm to create a question. So you would want to, so for like Google, for our databases, instead of Google, you would want to break down your topic into the most important elements to then create what is called like a search string. Before you jump into your research, you should spend some time coming up with a few brainstorming of keywords and key ideas to help your search strings and your topics, and that's what we'll do after this. So an easy way to think of that is like keywords are your tags for your topic. So here's an example. So like a Google search would be, a perfectly good Google search would be, what are the pros and cons of genetic cloning? And then that's a whole question you could ask. But as you can see here, the keywords that we have extrapolated from what are the pros and cons of genetic cloning would be, keywords would be benefits, advantages, pro, the negative, disadvantage, harm. Genetic cloning is a key term. Human cloning, clone, and genetics. Those are all potential terms within that one Google search question that I could use in combination with each other to get more specific answers. So the reason why that is important is those terms and using them is because databases use a search algorithm to mine through a great amount of information in databases. So it is therefore important to use what is called search syntax, or searching rules that will provide you with results. And the most common ones of these search things are called Boolean operators, and they are of and, or, and not. are the three that you would use to create a search string for your keywords. So what and does in a search string would be it tells the database to return results that include both of the keywords. They're usually used to link different aspects of your research question together to find both concepts in a set of returned results. So it also narrows your results. So an example of this could be climate change and pollution, where that'll find articles that have both terms in them. So only articles that have both climate change and pollution in their keywords will be found. I want to add a caveat here that I've noticed that Boolean searches don't work as well as advertised on the internet, because you'll still get some issues where you'll throw in a Boolean search and it'll grab something here, not here or there, or it'll grab things that are using your terms but not in your related subject, and that's a thing we'll go through to weed out. Another one is the one of or. It tells the database to return results that include either of the keywords. So again, usually used to link synonymous terms or concepts, and it expands your search results. So if you want to look at global warming, an example could be you'd use global warming or greenhouse effect, and then that finds articles with either of those terms in there, with either the term global warming and articles with greenhouse effect will be found. And if you wanted to narrow it down again to only have global warming and greenhouse gas effect, you would use that and. It would narrow it down to articles that have both of those. And or are primarily what I use. Not every now and again I come across it and use it. Not tells a database to return results that do not include certain keywords. They're usually used to get rid of results that contain an element or of your research topic. So again, narrows the results. An example of this would be, say you're doing research on Mexico. You would put Mexico, not New Mexico, in your search, and that will find results with Mexico only, and it'll take out everything talking about New Mexico. So that's a way to reduce your search if you have terms that have, if you have terms that have things like that. So if you wanted to, so if you wanted to, like, say, just in general, you were looking at warming trends for, say, a totally different study. You're studying the warming trends of the environment, and you're not trying to connect it to global warming. You would say warming, not global warming, that sort of a thing. Those are your three biggest Boolean operators that you will use. Another advanced search techniques that we use are using those quotations, as you probably saw in the top section, like how the global warming, greenhouse effect, multiple words are in quotations. That creates what is called a phrase. So it requires the whole keyword to be searched as a singular phrase. So a great example of this is the Oscars. So if I throw the Oscars in those parentheses and search, it'll only bring up the Oscars in the searches will look at specifically for the Oscars, like the award show Oscars. It'll cut out anything with the attached to another word, or Oscars that isn't the Oscars. It's a way to narrow it down easily, and then again, keeping it a little more neat. So this is the same, doing it as a group search like this. The Oscars would be the same as using keywords the and Oscars together in two sets of quotes. If you were to do that as a Boolean search, you could do the in quotes and in the middle, and then Oscars in quotes. And we're going to talk about that now. Boolean strings, again, allow you to create a more complex search strings, especially useful when using the or operator between similar concepts. An example of this would be ethics or morality and cloning. This search would bring up articles that have ethics and cloning or morality and cloning as sets together. So you would have two search sets. So you'd have articles that are ethics and cloning, and then the other ones that are morality and cloning. So it allows you to look at overlapping search terms. Ethics and morality are the same thing in cloning. So that would allow you to look at those and make a keyword search that'll allow you to have multiple articles. And you can get even more complex in your Boolean strings. Typically, I do an and maybe an or at most. So like this example here is usually as complex as I will get when searching. As you will notice, again, the way to do a Boolean search is to use the word in quotes and then capitalize the middle, like the Boolean search word, which is really weird to me. And that signals that it's using it in the search terms, and then adding your other set of words. So that's how you would do a Boolean search. You would use the quotes and then the string words as well as your other quotes. And then that's how you come up with your search terms. You can use truncation, which I never, ever use. I literally only teach it, but I've never actually used it in all of my career. But truncation is also called stemming, is a technique that broadens your search to include various word endings and spellings. You use the truncation, you would use the root of a word and then put the truncation symbol at the end. And these symbols aren't like used the same as like those Boolean ones. So very common ones include the asterisk, the exclamation point, the question mark, or the hashtag. Examples of this would be, so say you did child and the star, it would then put child, child's, children's, childhood. It would put all of those in your search string. So you could put a search string that said child dot and then another bunch of Boolean searches, and it'll bring up a bunch of things. It'll bring up children, children's things, childhood things. It'll create a massive search that you can then wean through. But as you can probably already tell just by talking about the number of like hits you're going to get, it becomes overwhelming. So I personally don't use truncation, but if you want to give it a try, you totally can. And here's an example of how you would like put it all together well. So say, here's the example. You're writing on a paper looking at the movement for human rights in China. That's your research question, is you want to track the historical march towards human rights or something. For a Google search, you could totally be like, what is the current status of human rights in China? And that's going to give you probably some pretty good articles themselves, not necessarily scholarly unless you go to Google Scholar, which is its own thing you can totally use. But it would give you a lot of like probably articles and newspaper articles and starting points for you to work from. But if you were to try to just Google that down to a keyword search within Google, you could do human rights, civil rights, political freedoms, social freedoms, China, the People's Republic of China. Those are all potential keywords just from that one like normal research Google style question. A potential database search you could use is human right or civil right with the modifier. So then that would bring up human rights, civil rights. Yeah, and then China with the Boolean search, and it would bring up Chinese civil rights, Chinese human rights, civil rights in China. Like all of those would become potential like search ones that it puts together based off of this stemming and Boolean searching. So if you were to do that, you would come up with a ton. And again, you would just pare down through it. I personally I would Google human rights and China and then civil rights and China and do all of my terms that way just because it's easier. But that's just me. I got another example here. Say you wanted to do another paper on the pros and cons of corporate farming. The simple Google search for you guys would be, what is a corporate farm and how are animal rights affected? But keyword searches from that could be factory farm, corporate farm, animal rights, animal welfare. There's tons more, but a potential database search could just be animal rights and animal welfare and animal farming or corporate farming. Like that's a search that'll give you everything. So it'd bring up animal rights and factory farming, animal rights and factory farms, animal rights activists. Like it would bring up a bunch of stuff. And again, I would personally just go to the Boolean search and trim it down. But this is how like complex you can use those library databases and how complex you can get. I feel like I just threw a ton at you guys. Any questions on any of that so far about database search tips? And I'll share my screen and show you how to get to our database, and then we'll go from there. But any questions real quick before I break you into like really quick like breakout rooms to have you guys discuss like potential research topic keywords. So that'll be what you guys are doing is you'll get thrown into breakout rooms after we talk about this, and I'll have you guys come up with, based on your research question, possible key terms you guys could have. So you'll want to throw out your research question, then just talk around key terms and take turns. But before we get to that, any questions on this handout? Anything super confusing? Anything I didn't explain well? Any of that? Any questions or things that you have personally experienced that would help others with using databases? Okay, I'm gonna take that as okay. So now I'm gonna break you guys into breakout rooms. Go ahead and accept that invite. We'll take like 10-ish minutes. You guys will come up with some potential research questions, and then we'll share our screen, and I'll show you the library database, and we'll go over that really quickly. So accept and breakout room invites, and we'll talk about potential keyword search terms for 10 minutes for you guys. So do that now. I'm gonna go with, oh no, sorry, give me a sec. 4 breakout rooms, there we go. How's everybody doing?
I think we're doing pretty good.
All right. So just real quick, what are some of your guys' research questions? I'm looking over the research boards right now. So somebody give me their research question and then potential keywords like search terms that you guys have come up with as a group based off of somebody's question. So let's see here. Lily, you want to tell us what your research question is that you'd come up with over the last week and put on the discussion board?
Yeah. I did, are the sustainable packaging fashion brands really helping the environment? Because I did As the World Burns.
Okay.
And I kind of changed it a little bit. Is it helping the amount of packaging and production waste?
Okay. So what were some key search terms you came up based on that? So your idea is looking into whether or not the packaging trends are actually helping the environment, or if they're just window dressing by corporations, or if they're okay.
Yeah.
What are some potential search terms that you guys came up with for Lily based on that?
She could do climate plus change and fashion.
Okay. Yeah, so climate change and fashion could be a Boolean search. Trying to think of what else. Environmentally friendly packaging could be its own search phrase, and global warming could be a thing. So that could be a potential phrase you could look at, because it would look at the context of using environmentally friendly packaging to help reduce global warming. That would be a thing you could look at. You could look at, I think the general term is greenwashing. I think they mention it As the World Burns, or maybe not. Maybe that's just somebody else that brought that up. But that could be a concept you could look at, is the optics of public relations and corporate responsibility. That could be public relations and corporate responsibility could be two search terms that you put together. So that would probably bring up, hopefully, something about like how firms use public relations to change how they're viewed by the public. Those would be good ones to search. What else you guys got for her? Okay. Who else had their research question done, and who else has a research question that they're looking into that it's fully fleshed out in their mind? I know that's hard, but that'll be something you guys have to narrow in like in the next day or two to just keep going. So what are other research questions you guys had?
I said how beneficial for the environment is recycling and waste management plants, because in the article, the As the World Burns, they talk about how it doesn't help as much as we think it does. And I was curious if that's actually true.
Okay. So you would want to probably be looking at, so waste management would be its own term. So you're looking at the emissions of waste to energy plants, correct?
Yeah.
So that would be something, emissions and waste to energy plants. What else is there? You could also try looking at like keyword searches of for-profit energy management and greenhouse emissions. Maybe that could be a term. I'm just trying to think, because it feels like there's something there of whether or not a for-profit company can actually be environmentally friendly, because it feels like the end goal is profits, not environment. So that would be something you could look up. I'm trying to think of keywords here. And that, I think, given how hard this actually is, that'll probably be this week's discussion board, just to give you guys a heads up of coming up with like key search terms for each other over the next few days. And then, So that'll be something you want to do and not have the discussion board be a Saturday afterthought sort of a thing. But Rachel or Devanya, what did you guys, do you guys have any ideas of terms he could search or keywords he could look at? Or, yeah, what do you guys have to add?
Well, like you said, waste management he could look up, and climate.
Yeah. Climate would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
a good, climate change and waste management would be two terms that you could look at, because I'm sure there's research on whether or not waste management companies or, and you could look specifically at the waste management brand itself, because they're a national company.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
So I don't know if we touched on this yet, probably, but is it typical to have 3 keywords in?
Yeah, you can have 3, 4. Like usually I do 2 and then just kind of go from there. I do 2 broader
Okay.
terms. Like I would do, say, if I'm looking at this one, I would look at waste management or waste to energy corporations, and then greenhouse emissions. Those would be 2 bigger terms I could search, but you could have 3 or 4. I typically do
Okay.
2 just because it's easier for me to manage.
Mm-hmm.
Because typically if I Google those 2 big broad terms, those are in like keyword searches. So then like really specific articles will come up with those key terms. Because
Okay.
I feel like sometimes if you get really too specific in your search, it'll exclude something that actually fits in your search, but is worded weirdly, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go join the other rooms real quick, and then I'll be back. Or then we'll join back together. That was weird. Sorry. I literally was muted for some reason. What are some, who has a research question and some key terms that you guys came up with as a group? I just want to kind of touch on it and see if we're on the same page here.
So we have pretty good ideas of what our research topics is going to be, and our key terms will basically focus on the topic itself. So for mine, we'll focus on just like media portrayal, like the media portrayal and poverty.
Okay.
Those are key terms, and also we'll focus on the time frame. Is when you enter those words, you usually get thousands of search. But if I focus on the specific time frame for my articles, I'll be able to narrow down the search result.
Okay. Anaya, right? Is that how you say your name? Castro Barrios. Anaya? Sorry. Anaya. So, what do you mean a more specific issue within environmental solutions? So that's on you to come up with. So like, if you want.
Oh, no. I was asking that to
Oh, sorry.
Jaslyn, because her mic doesn't work, so we've been just going through the
Oh,
chat.
okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Oh yeah, because I only have the main chat. So what was Jaslyn, like, what was her research question potentially? If you want to type that out for us, Jaslyn. While she's doing that, does anybody else have their research question? Because I do like the feedback that you're giving is finding a more specific issue within like an environmental. So yeah, that's one thing you'll want to do, is have as specific as an issue as possible, because it'll help focus your research and keep you from like being all over the place. So, yeah. All right. I'm gonna go jump with the other groups real quick, and then we'll talk about this as a larger group. Yeah, I'll be back, or I'll invite you back. Sorry. Why does it keep doing that? It mutes me like some weirdo when I come in the room.
Sneaky, like Halloween.
Like,
It's
does it let you guys know that I'm in the room, or does it just kind of stealthily put me in here?
I didn't know you were in the room.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I had no clue.
All right. So, which one? So, somebody want to give us an example of their research question and then potential keywords that they came up with? Because yeah, and that's going to be this week's discussion board, and I'm probably going to make it do like Wednesday or Thursday, just because everybody's been doing it at the end of the weekend. Being that late for helping people with keyword searches doesn't really help them search over the week. Anyways, who has their research question and some potential keyword searches for their research question?
Wait, just quick question. You said, so we already did our question last week, so this discussion board's gonna be like the keywords.
Yeah, so this discussion board, I'm thinking because some people are having trouble coming up with keywords, you'll throw up your discussion board question or your research question, then students will comment potential like keyword searches that you could use to find information about your thing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I don't know what else to do because it's kind of a weird in-betweener where you guys are working on a rough draft and researching, so I don't know. It just feels like it's something out there to kind of try to help you guys and use it as a discursive space, which I don't know. I'm finding very quickly discussion boards in my class and others don't actually help. They become something people do on Sundays. Anyways, does one of you want to throw out just even your research question that you came up with? And then we can come up with some possible key terms real quick because we're running out of time.
I mean, I can.
Okay. Yes,
My question would be something like, how is racism still impacting our lives today through the animation platform?
Okay. So anime and racism would be two that you could really look at. I guess racial representation in and anime are another two that you could look at. So, animated or anime specifically? I can't remember. Just
no, animation in general.
Okay, animation in general. Sorry, I don't know why my brain automatically went to anime. So, racism in cartoons would be one that you could look at. You could yeah, so racism cartoons portray ethnic diversity, and animation could be something you could talk about too. That would be a potential search term. For you with that, you may get some stuff that tracks the history of stereotypes through like Looney Tunes and stuff, so that might be something to look at. Also specifically finding a given like studio to look at, like Nickelodeon or Disney might help narrow you down instead of animation in general or a style of animation, you know?
Yeah.
Because you could look at racial representation in Looney Tunes because those are cartoons that are mainly anthropomorphic, like animals speaking, but yet somehow they manage to play on racial tropes and like send racial like messaging to people or coded messages. So that could be something you could look at as a specific animation studio, how they handle racial representation. That would be a thing you could look at. Hopefully that helps. I'm gonna go back to the classroom and we're just gonna talk for like 5 minutes and then we'll probably let's just go talk real quick. I'm gonna invite you all back. All right, hopefully everybody's coming back. All right, I think we got most of everybody here. All right, how many do we got? We got 12. What's going on here? All right, so those other 4, as soon as they realize that their breakout rooms they should already be closed, so those people might not even just be here. This is, yeah, all right. What I want to do is I want to just really quickly, I'm going to down and dirty it real quickly here. I'm going to show you how to get to our library database. I'm going to screen share. Screen sharing, desktop 1. All right, so as you can see here, I'm at our university home screen. Easiest way to find the library is to go underneath the current students tab, and then you'll see library here. This is usually what I do. You can go to research and databases. You can get more specific, like you can go here, you can click on it, you can find specific databases, you can find subject guides, or you can ask a librarian. But for me, usually I just search the whole library. So, and then I'll go from there and it'll bring up a search and then I'll kind of wean it down from there. So for me, say that we want to look at, say we want to look at Tesla and say we want to look at Tesla and carbon footprints, we would throw that up there. Not sure if we're going to get anything, we would search. And then what would come up is, as you can see, as the library is done, it is searching everything. And as you can see, it has come up with 504 results. So it's actually a pretty narrow one that I would want to be looking at. So the carbon footprint study of the Tesla Model 3, this would literally be like a great article that I would use. It's peer reviewed, it's open access. So as you will see here, it literally says carbon footprint study of a Tesla Model 3. This would be a great thing for me to use. As you can see here, when an article is peer reviewed, it will say so like right here. And we can even go through and, as I will show you, our availability. So if we want to narrow it down to just peer reviewed journals, I would click there. It would do peer reviewed journals, and then it gives me different things. I can look at articles or book chapters if I want to, or conference proceedings. So I'm going to click articles and book chapters, and then I would apply my filters. And then from there, it'll take it from 504 to 89. We have a carbon footprint of a Tesla Model 3 here. The carbon footprint method of case. So see, that isn't even what I would want. But see, as you can see, it's bringing up carbon footprint, which is one of our things that was put in the Boolean search. So that would be something I wouldn't want to use. And how I could parry that down is I could look at subject terms. So science and technology is one that I could want, or electric vehicles, or climate change, or emissions, or technology. I could start clicking on all of those. Like most of these are going to come in like the subsections that I want, as you can see, like science and technology, energy storage. Like these are things that I would look at and can click on to whittle it down. But since most of what I want is in those anyways, when I click, it's probably not going to whittle it down by that much. It puts it down to 56 results. But see, as you can see, possibilities and challenges for the inclusion of electric vehicle to reduce carbon footprint in the transport section. Like that's a review of a book, it seems like. So like, as you can see, just narrowing it down using my little tiny bar over here, I've gotten it narrowed down pretty quickly to having one article. Nope, that's not it. Why did my first one go away? But it did. But this one is still here for some reason. But as you can see, I have articles here, the limits to private sector climate change, the geographies of corporate climate governance. That sounds like it's in the vein of what I want to look at, is whether or not like corporations being corporations can actually ever be green, or whether or not that motive of being a corporation comes in. But as you can see, like just searching two really like key terms, just Tesla and footprint or carbon footprint, and then like using the active filters over here to whittle it down. You can get pretty quickly, and that's my preferred method. Since it's 12:50, I'm going to be putting up a longer video that goes over this. The lecture will be more of a library walkthrough, and I will also have office hours tomorrow for that. If you have any questions about research, questions about researching, about coming up with keywords, any of that stuff, by all means, I'm going to stop sharing. Come to office hours tomorrow. We can talk more. There'll be a better idea. Sorry, I was a little scatterbrained today, but I literally had to turn in a final project draft yesterday, so you guys were on the back burner till this morning. But tomorrow, I have office hours if you need more help with coming up with a research question, searching key term searches, any of that stuff, or you want more on the library, tomorrow will be the place to come and get more information. And also later tonight, there will be a more in-depth library video. It'll probably be like 10 minutes of me searching through and talking more. If you have any questions, go ahead, email me or stick around for a minute. But if not, I will see you guys tomorrow or on Wednesday. But we have office hours tomorrow, and you can ask more questions about getting your research done if you have any more.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day, and I'll hopefully see some of you guys tomorrow.